Hey there everyone, and welcome back to What Did I Miss? Where today I'll be breaking down all the Easter eggs from the 4th episode of the 4th season of Star Trek Lower Decks, which is titled Something Borrowed, Something Green. One of the advantages of producing an animated series is that you are able to show things on screen that may be too costly or otherwise too difficult to pull off on a live-action series. This week's episode is a perfect example of this, as the audience is given an intimate look at the race of aliens known as the Orion, who are actually one of the earliest alien races that Gene Roddenberry created for Star Trek. There were also some pretty funny callbacks to The Next Generation, as well as Enterprise, along with a surprise cameo voice appearance from one of the stars of perhaps the most successful family sitcom ever produced. But before I get into all of that, I want to thank you for clicking on this video and ask that you hit that like button to help support the channel. Don't forget to also subscribe for future videos. The title of this episode is a reference to the wedding poem Something Old, Something New, Something Borrowed, and Something Blue, which is meant to represent well wishes offered by friends and family on a couple's wedding day. Within this episode, this is a reference to the various Orion wedding customs that Devana Tendi has to endure on her sister's wedding day. As I mentioned, the Orions are one of the oldest alien races in Star Trek, as one appeared to Captain Pike as a hologram in the original pilot episode The Cage, although the most well-known Orion from the original series would probably be Marta from the episode Whom Gods Destroy. She was played by actress Yvonne Craig for the 1960s Batman series. Before taking on the part of Marta, Miss Craig was almost cast as Vina in the episode The Cage, which led to her being cast as an Orion in the 3rd season of TOS. The Orion were not used again after appearing in the original animated series until the series Star Trek Enterprise episode titled Bound, where their culture was shown to be a matriarchy in which the women actually held most to all of the power within their society. The series also established that female Orions emit a pheromone which can intoxicate heterosexual males into being highly suggestible and easily manipulated. On Star Trek Discovery, we learned that in the 31st century that Orions had become a power in the galaxy during the show's 3rd season. Devana Tendi stated in the 1st episode of Lower Decks, Second Contact, that she is the first Orion to serve in Starfleet. Since that episode, Lower Decks has been teasing a hidden story behind Tendi. In the 2nd season episode, We'll Always Have Tom Paris, we started to learn about her family as well as hearing her full title, which is Mistress of the Winter Constellation. Then, the Strange New Worlds crossover episode, Those Old Scientists, introduced Devana Tendi's ancestor, who is part of a small group of Orion dedicated to science. The Orion people are controlled by the Orion Syndicate, which is a criminal organization tied to piracy. And no, I'm not talking about Pirate Bay style piracy. I'm talking about Jack Sparrow in space style piracy, as they do everything that pirates do, but in space. There are many connections between naval terms and nautical procedures to what we see officers do in Starfleet, including similarities in rank and how the ships are laid out. Hell, even the USS Enterprise got its name from the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier that was launched by the US Navy in 1958. So it makes sense that there be pirates here as well, matey. Sorry, I promise, that's my last pirate speak in this episode. Arg, but you can't trust a pirate, can ye? Sorry, I promise I'll stop now. The episode begins with an Orion ship being destroyed by the same mysterious ship that destroyed a Klingon vessel in the 1st episode this season, then a Romulan one in the 2nd episode. I have a pretty good theory of what is going on with this thing that I discussed in my podcast earlier this week, WDIM News, that I have linked in the description if you would like to check that out after this video. Before the Orion get destroyed, we see members of the crew going over some of their loot from their last pirate thing, which I believe is known as booty. In the room, there is a Vulcan Lurpa, which is a bladed weapon first introduced in the original series episode Amok Time. There's also a Klingon Batleth, an angrier style of bladed weapon, first introduced in the Next Generation episode Reunion, as well as some Starfleet Type 2 hand phasers on the table, which are introduced on the series Star Trek The Next Generation in their pilot episode Encounter at Farpoint. There are also some phasers from the original series and the films with that cast, which the Orion throws out in the trash. After the intro, Tendi gets an invitation to return home for her sister's wedding that she is less than enthusiastic about, but the captain sees it as an opportunity to learn more about the Orion culture. Mariner and new lower decker T'Lyn decide to join in as well and take the audience to the Orion home planet for the first time in Star Trek history. Meanwhile, Boimler and Rutherford are enjoying sharing quarters together and each have some very interesting Star Trek memorabilia in their room. On Boimler's side, you can see his Tom Paris commemorative plate that actually spoke to him in the episode We'll Always Have Tom Paris. Boimler also has 3 figurines which appear to be a mirror universe version of Jonathan Archer, Spock from the original series film era, and Catherine Janeway with her signature hair bun. On Rutherford's side, there is a model of Deep Space Nine that he received as a gift from Tendi in the second season episode, An Embarrassment of Dupplers. Also, the colors on the corner of the box match Wesley Crusher's infamous sweater that he wore towards the beginning of his appearances on The Next Generation. Rutherford's obsession with Wesley Crusher continues, as the next thing on his shelf is the science project that Wesley was working on in the TNG episode The Naked Now. After Rutherford and Boimler get into a fight, they decide to work out their differences in a holodeck program in which they both portray author Samuel Clemens, aka Mark Twain. This is a reference to the Next Generation two-part episode Time's Arrow, in which Data and several members of the Enterprise D crew take part in a time paradox, and along the way they travel to 19th century San Francisco and meet the real Samuel Clemens. When Tendi, Mariner, and T'Lyn arrive on Orion, they are thrown into a rescue mission, which is also a type of Orion ritual. Tendi takes them to a club named Slit Throat, where she has to take part in a deadly drinking game with an old friend. There, Mariner asks about the female Orion's ability to use pheromones to enthrall men, and she says,
"Yeah, Tendi's made it clear that Starfleet made those pheromones up. I mean, they had to explain why a captain would get taken out by some Orion showgirls."
This is a reference to the aforementioned Star Trek Enterprise episode Bound, where 3 Orion women almost take over the NX-01 Enterprise by turning the men on the ship against each other. After Boimler and Rutherford make up, they are called to the bridge, where Captain Freeman is having issue with another captain who is Chalnoth, an aggressive species that was first introduced in the Next Generation episode Allegiance. And I cannot confirm this as of recording this video, but I believe that this character is voiced by Star Trek veteran actor J.G. Hertzler, who is best known for playing the Klingon General Martok on Deep Space Nine, but he has appeared in other roles on many Star Trek series, including 3 previous episodes of Lower Decks. There may be a quick hint to the casting of J.G. Hertzler earlier in this episode when Mariner describes their new lives as Lieutenant Junior grade.
One of the great things about being a Lieutenant JG is it's actually possible to finish your work.
The issue between the USS Cerritos and Kokher is a nebula that phase shifts through time and is only able to be studied until it disappears again. This is possibly a reference to the Deep Space Nine episode titled Meridian, where a planet and its inhabitants phase out of existence for 60 years and then reappear for only 12 days until they disappear again. On the planet Orion, Tendi and the others come across a Raven-class ship, which Tendi says she used to play in as a child. This is the same type of ship that a young Annika Hansen, aka 7 of 9, and her parents were in when they were attacked and assimilated by the Borg, event shown in the Voyager episode titled The Raven. In the ship, they are come upon by Tendi's sister and the person they are all looking for, De'Erica. She is voiced by actress Ariel Winter, who most will recognize from her role as Alex Dunphy on the Emmy Award-winning series Modern Family, where she also played the youngest sister in her household. After the sisters make amends, the episode ends with Boimler and Rutherford planning the next addition to their room.
Today we were arguing about whether to hang an oil painting of the Enterprise D or a watercolor of the Enterprise D.
This is a reference to the oil painting of the Enterprise D that hung in the Reading Room during the series The Next Generation, and then after the ship was almost destroyed in the film Star Trek Generations, it hung in the study of Chateau Picard during the series Star Trek Picard. Well, that was everything I saw, but let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Thank you very much for watching. Please do not forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time on What Did I Miss?